You're like, okay, I don't know what it is. I'll be doing whatever it is. I didn't know I was doing.
There's kids who are there from the graduate.
I have yes.
Anything else we ready on the live stream? All right, perfect.
So we don't have to.
All right, it's at 6 o'clock here, so we'll call to order the negotiations committee meeting here this evening. Past practice has been, we just kind of went around the table and did a quick roll call for the recording and reflective of the minutes. So I think we'll continue with that practice. If we'll start with Ms. Glavin here.
Cindy Glavin.
Jeff Winslow.
Amanda Mole.
Corey Swint.
Seth Thompson. Chris Junt. All right, I think last meeting we could agree that we would facilitate this one and kind of start out. So I'm going to turn it over to Seth Thompson from here. He's going to run through some of the board proposals, and we get through those proposals. We're hoping that have enough time to go ahead and go through your guys' proposals and take a look and have a good discussion. So turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Well, welcome. We'd get together again and not maybe get hit by the snowstorm that got the other part of the state. So although we could use the moisture, we appreciate having the opportunity to get together. Like Chris said, we've got our proposals here that we'd like to walk through and answer any questions that we can, or at least that you have at this point, get the process started. Right? I've got a couple extra copies here, and the purpose behind that is I like to make notes on mine. You may want to clean copy for I can bring it later on, and I would also add, if you'd like an electronic version of that, you know, a Word version or whatnot, that go forward, just say so we'll email one to you. Sometimes it's easier just to do that rather than to recreate the wheel, make everything over again. All right. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. What I've done is kind of similar to what we did last time. Each particular proposal is, you know, numbered as a different proposal rather than being a big package. That way, you know, if we reach an agreement on one of these in here, it's easier to sign off on it and move it out that way. So stop me at any point if you have any questions or if I'm not making sense, which is probably going to happen at some point. So, all right. The first proposal here really is kind of what I call a housekeeping type proposal. It's just updating, you know, in Article 1, you know, it's listed in the agreement that, you know, the district 007, 007, and we're just taking the zeros out of it, making it just the 7. And it's no longer the James Bond district. So then we struck where previously it said, you know, the welfare of the children, we've identified it as the welfare of the students, just to be a little bit more meaningless, a more straightforward language. But otherwise, proposal number 1 really doesn't have a whole lot of anything in there. More so housekeeping, I guess, is how I would say. Proposal number 2. This relates to Article 2, insurances and leaves. So you'll see the first change in the first line of the proposal there. Right now, the first sentence says, you know, the district offers 2 health insurance plans. What we're just changing that so it says, you know, the district offers health insurance. For the point being, we're not looking at making a change or anything like that. But if they wanted to offer 3 plans, have another plan, if they wanted to make another change or whatnot, the way it's specified there, it wouldn't necessarily, you know, that would have to be modified. And just so we're all on the same page, you know, there's language in there already about, you know, changes and different things like that, that, you know, we could absolutely ask to confer, you know, if there's a change in the plan or whatnot. So. And then in the second paragraph, we've made change actually to more so reflect what the current practice is for when health insurance coverage commences. In the contract, it says, January 1 to December 31st, I believe, but actually it's the way it operates is it's October 1st through September 30th. So we set it up that way. Might will reflect the current practice, so there's no ambiguity on that. Questions on that one? Board proposal number 3 is also from Article 2, insurance and leaves. This relates to the term life insurance benefit. This is also just kind of updating what we're doing right now. The amount provided for the term life policy and the accidental death and dismemberment policy went up. It was $20,000. Now it's $50,000 for each of those. So it's just identifying that. Board proposal number 4, also in Article 2, this is in sick leave benefit. So the first paragraph, you'll see we struck out the paragraph. All certified staff under contract from the previous District 1 and District 8 carries over. The purpose behind that is that language isn't needed anymore, but now that things have moved forward, it's kind of sometimes called legacy language, so it doesn't have a purpose anymore. So looking to move that out. The next change takes place a little bit later. You'll see where right now the contract says that if somebody's using sick leave, the district may require a statement. If you use 5 consecutive contracted days, the district can require a statement of inability to work from a healthcare professional. What we're taking that language out. We're looking to just make it state that any absence may require a doctor's note at the discretion of the supervisor. And here's the purpose behind this. Sometimes you have people that maybe are using their sick leave in ways that they shouldn't. And in those circumstances, like if Seth Thompson is frequently using sick leave every Monday or every Friday to maybe get additional leave or whatnot, that would be something that would be a little easier to address there. This isn't a desire to, anytime somebody's going to be gone, require a note from the doctor. That's not the purpose of it. It's more so to make sure sick leave is being used. People are sick. That's something that impacts everyone as far as picking up additional work from that person being gone and whatnot. So it's a little bit having to wait until after 5 consecutive contracted days to kind of almost justify, if you would, through a note, it's just not something that really in accordance with what good HR practices are.
So you're looking for a pattern of misuse.
Yeah, this isn't a desire to start requiring a note after every time or anything like that. It's just that you might have, there are so many individual circumstances and ways that it gets used. Just to kind of give a little bit more flexibility to address that. Next one, board proposal number 5, also under Article 2. This relates to the sick leave bank. And I do want to make a point here. We're going to be providing some additional information on this, and just to maybe take a step back. So as you're probably aware, there's been discussions about putting together, a type of policy related to using the sick leave bank for, for family, type matters and all of that. There've been discussions, with 2 WIA members and the district. The district has kind of brought forward the rough outline for, what it's looking at for a policy on this. We think that within a week, you will have the finalized version to bring to you so that you can see it and see what we're looking at doing. And then that would allow for some more discussions at the next meeting on that. Just kind of overarchingly, the district is now providing, a short-term disability and a long-term disability, offering at its expense. And, you know, this actually, you're gonna need to see it, I understand that, but it actually, I think is a benefit to employees, the way it's structured, so that you get the opportunity to, if you're, you know, needing to use it for, you know, some sort of illness or whatnot, you've got this short-term disability, but you can also use your sick leave then to supplement that. I think it's 40% to take it so that you're kind of made whole if you're gone. We understand you need to see it, you know, I can't describe it all right now, but that's kind of what we have going on with that. And, you know, once we have that information, we'll absolutely provide it. And I think we can maybe talk a little bit more next session about it. We'll anticipate.
And you kind of served on that committee.
Yeah, and I have shared it, I mean, the last copy, but is that a policy or an administrative regulation? Same thing, so,
I think it's gonna be a policy is what we're talking about.
okay, okay. Dr. Germanson has a comment.
I'd like to propose an HR. I was just gonna say, so it'd be an admin regulation, since the way the new board structure, the policies aren't really board policies anymore, they're admin regulations, so that's what that would become.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, number 6, board proposal number 6, also under Article 2, this relates to, you know, weather-related leave. So right now, this contract specifies, you know, that up to 2 days of emergency leave may be granted for a weather-related emergency at the discretion of the superintendent or designee. If it's already at the discretion of the superintendent or the designee, it doesn't necessarily make sense to have the language in there saying that, you know, 2 days of that could be used. So, I mean, because theoretically, if depending on the circumstance, it could be 3 days that are allowed or whatnot. So, given it's already at the discretion, we're just kind of making it clear that, you know, emergency leave will be granted by the, you know, discretion of the superintendent or designee. Board proposal number 7. This relates also to Article 2, you know, and get the last page to see the change. This relates to requests for unpaid leave. You know, when you know, administration gets requests for unpaid leave, you know, it's really more something that's appropriate for the board to make a decision on, because at the end of the day, the board is are the folks that, you know, sign the contracts and, you know, are doing that. So if there's a request for unpaid leave, that should be something that really should come to the board to ask for the unpaid leave that way, just given the relationship is with. And just to be clear, that's not saying, you know, person has to go into super great detail. It's not an effort to, you know, find out the nitty-gritty instances of everything that's going on for why they leave. You know, that's not it, but it's just more appropriate for having the board make those decisions, and then they're, you know, made that way.
Do you guys know how that would look? Would it be a form and then you just make a mass approval at a board meeting? Would we have to come to the board meeting and share what our unpaid time would be concerning or anything?
You know, I think it's one of those things where I think as it's drafted now, it could be something where you did come forward. It could also be something where, you know, you provided some sort of, you know, letter or something like that. We could talk a little bit more about that. You know, some of it, you know, I don't have an example off the top of my head, but I can see circumstances where it's going to be readily apparent, clear, you know, what it is, versus some that, you know, maybe need a little discussion. So, you know, I think it would kind of be up to the individual who's asking. But if there's a desire for something like that to have a little bit more consistency or in the specific request form, that makes some sense, because we could specify out, you know, some of the additional information. Good question. Moving on, number 8, this is Article 3 relating to licensure. You know, right now, I mean, the contract specifies that, you know, teachers must comply with the licensure requirements of the, you know, education standards and practices board. Having instances and examples of folks letting their license lapse, and, you know, I asked, had some discussions with administration that could be up to 10 people a year that are actually, their license is lapsing. And, you know, if that's happening, that's really not a good thing, just to state it bluntly. And, you know, it's also something that it's respectfully not really the, you know, the administration or the district's, you know, responsibility to remind people about, you know, your upcoming licensure and all of that. I mean, it's a renewal on your birthday. And so what we're specifying is if your license lapses, your contract is voided. Now, I want to be clear, we should talk about like a time to cure period, you know, time to fix it period, you know, if there are circumstances where, you know, something could happen, you know, I mean, I'm not taking it seriously and I'm just not doing it, but some sort of clerical issue or something like that. We understand that could occur, but we've had a number of situations over the past couple of years that have caused difficulty, and we want to find a way to make sure that doesn't happen. And, you know, if there are suggestions that we may have to maybe address this issue, we're open to listening to that. I mean, nobody wants to do that. You know, what we want is just to make sure the folks are, you know, keeping their license up and, you know, that it's taken care of now.
Is there still like a minimum fee the state charges for, so like every day you don't have your license, is it like 250? I know it used to be that way.
I haven't looked. I know that there was. I don't know. Yeah.
Cause that's the responsibility of the teacher to pay that, I believe, right?
Right. Article number 9. This is Article 4. And this also is more of a housekeeping type item. You know, when the merger took place, there was contract language specifying that the seniority list combining seniority of District 1 and District 8 would be created as of this date, 2001. That's already happened. It's taken place. So I think it just makes sense to clean up and take that reference out. That's the only change. Proposal number 10, 6 working conditions. Second page, and you'll see first page there with respect to length of workday. What the contract currently says, you know, work days 7 hours, 15 minutes plus the 35 minutes duty-free lunch. What our addition there is that schedule will be based off the building bell schedule. You know, the point being that there are some schools that might be 8 o'clock, some of them might be 8:05 or whatnot. Just to make the point that that's how that's set. You know, we've got some administration has got some questions, you know, particularly from newer teachers, you know, how does it work? Well, you know, if we make it clear that you're based off your building bell schedule, I think maybe we'll take care of that. And the next piece there is, you know, it states, if an emergency happens during the teacher's duty-free lunch, the teacher is expected to appropriately respond to the needs of their students and the building. This candidly comes from a situation where there was a fire drill and somebody was on their duty-free lunch and was not interested in helping. So, you know, that's a problem. So we want to make it clear that, yeah, there is a contracted for specified duty-free lunch and all of that, but without a doubt, there are circumstances that come up that we need to address. The next one on the in-house substitution regarding middle school and high school here, What we're saying is if you substitute for another person during their prep or teaming or staffing time, you get compensated at a prorated rate of the internal sub rate rather than the daily base salary rate, because it is actually substituting there. The next part, when middle school power up and power down classes require an internal sub, rate will be the $5.64. And it doesn't qualify for the $30 combined class rate. Couple points I want to make on this. I think we're going to have to, this clause here is going to be discussed further as we go along. I mean, there's legislation it's being discussed in Bismarck about, no longer allowing cell phones in schools, classrooms and all of that. So I think we need to just see a little bit about how that pans out and operates, but I think you still may have, this issue with, powering computers up and powering down and all of that, but that's something that we're going to be kind of just checking on. But the point is, I think we've had some situations where it's been requested to get the, the combined class rate for the $30 for somebody going in and helping out with respect to power up, power down. I don't think that's the intent of any of that language.
These are shorter amounts of time, is that?
Like 15, my understanding, we're talking
minutes
like
before
15
an
minutes.
hour?
The power down, power ups is 10 minutes in the morning and
Oh.
8 minutes
Okay.
at the end of the day.
Okay.
And the next change there, this also relates to, you're substituting internally. An elementary K-5 licensed teacher who substitutes for another elementary teacher during the student contact day. Right now, it says that they'll be compensated at their daily base salary rate based on half-day increments. We've struck that, so it's the prorated amount based on the daily internal sub rate. There have been situations where someone will go and sub for somebody and fill in for that, short period or a shorter amount of time, to help out. And then there's a request for half-day pay for filling for that one period or whatnot. So I don't think that also is the intent of the language on something like that. So we're looking to clean it up a little bit.
So like right now, you get a half day pay even if you're in the classroom for an hour and a half, is that correct? Is that what the original language is meaning?
Yeah, so my understanding, give me a second here.
It's unintended consequences.
Cause like you're saying, instead of getting a half day, if I'm in a classroom subbing, I get an hour and a half. Okay, instead of the whole half day, is that what the language intent is trying to do,
Well,
that you're switching? here?
No, if you're substituting and filling in for, one class period there for that individual.
Mhm.
I mean, right now, though, at least understanding it is that, people are putting in for a half day's worth of pay at that. This is saying that it would be prorated based on your internal sub rate. I might be missing that question. Yeah.
Oh, so some of the description that we received is you may have 3 or 4 teachers that sub for one individual throughout the day,
Yeah,
and you have 4 requests for half-day pay.
so we're just looking at like, if you're in there 2 hours, you get paid 2 hours, if you're in there an hour, you get paid an hour. So that would be,
That's the intent, is
intent
to
of
clean
the
that up so that we're
Okay.
not subbing out
3 days
Yeah.
of sub pay for
for
one.
yeah.
one teacher that's gone. theoretically.
Yeah, and is sub pay 170, is that correct? You know,
Off the cuff, right?
170?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, all right, thank you, I just wanted to clarify that.
No, thank you for the
Sure,
question
understood.
and thank you for your clarification. Moving on to the next page, we're also under the same article. Right now, this is the substitute teachers article. It says that the subsecretary or building administration is responsible for finding, subs for all of this. we struck sub-secretary in there because the reality of it is it's ultimately the building administration's, responsibility and decision to do that. Of course, working with, the sub-secretary and all that, but it probably makes more sense just to, make it say where the decision is really being made. And the next one, the G, the multi-grade classroom teachers extra compensation. This was, if you're teachers with a full day combined grade level, self-contained classrooms receive an additional $2,000 in addition to their annual negotiated salary. We're striking that. I don't know that that's a circumstance that happens anymore. That was more of something that, occurred at Round Prairie, and that's what, yes.
And there's questions, as an example of maybe a special education teacher that has fifth, sixth, seventh grade student in their classroom, and they're asking, do they get this extra 2,000? That's not the intent of the language. This was District 8 language from Round Prairie back in the day, and when they had one teacher teaching third and fourth grade in one classroom. So I think it makes sense to remove this, so there's no miscommunication, I guess, on how it applies to their situation.
The next part on this one relates to student contact time. We're just making the clarification that it means student contact time applies to classroom teachers, as they're defined in the Century Code. I think if you've got other folks, whether dean of students or counselors or whatnot, that's not the intent of, the student contact time piece. They're not actually in the class with, group of students and all of that, supervising multiple students necessarily. So we're making a clarification on that. The next one, board proposal number 11, this would be additional language. It relates to the defining what a coordinator is. Coordinator is a licensed teacher by definition of the Century Code on the teacher salary schedule that will receive their teacher salary plus 2/7 of that salary for compensation for their extra duties. This is trying to just make it clear what that premium or additional amount is, because there's been examples and instances of, requests to negotiate that differently or individually. This, can we do 3/7 or whatever? Can we do this? And this is really what we should specify it in here, and identify what's paid at and try and resolve any questions and things that come from that. Board proposal number 12, this is just term of the agreement, proposing a 2-year agreement. Update the language or the dates there. Otherwise, of course, there's economic, salary type proposals coming up, down the road a little bit, but that is what the board committee here has proposals for. All right, questions on any of that? And I know that more questions will come as we show it, so you don't have to have them now, but if you have it. Thank you for your proposal.
Copy them all just on one page because we had board members in the past that didn't like flipping pages over, so looks like a book, but it's because it's one page.
So starting off with our proposals, before we get to that, I'll just throw out a short statement typed up, thought it was relevant. You okay with that? First off, on behalf of WIA, I'd like to welcome Dr. Jermitson as our new superintendent. Look forward to working with you now and in the future, and appreciate your leadership as we begin the process together.
Step out.
When he comes in, we should all.
Well, fools, just kidding. No, no. Seriously, it's been great to work with thus far, and Mike's been great. We just wanted to take time to recognize him. Also want to recognize the dedication of both the bargaining teams. The WIA team has worked hard to develop meaningful proposals that hopefully reflect the needs of our educators and ultimately our students. We also appreciate the board's time and effort in these discussions, and implore you and encourage you to help us find a pathway forward on some of these proposals. We recognize it might not be perfect. Some of them might even be written like a FIAD teacher, right? But intent is important, and we hope and we believe that you're gonna help us find a way forward and find a way to yes. Then the Williston Basin School District is already a terrific place to work. We want to continue to echo that throughout the state and within the community. We have strong working conditions. The benefits are excellent that help attract and retain great educators. However, teacher retention and burnout issues are real, and those are going to be the central theme of our proposals. They are certainly not unique to Williston. In the face of these challenges, Williston teachers continue to step up, demonstrating their commitment to students and the community. Likewise, we recognize the board's efforts as well to support our educators, which we wholeheartedly appreciate. And we hope today's discussions will further that shared commitment that we share together. So just wanted to put that out there, that we appreciate. All right, with that being said, I think some of these are going to be similar, that the order might be different, but we have proposal number one, in terms of the agreement. This agreement shall be in effect July 2025, so we struck 2023, and then shall remain in effect through June 2027. And thereafter for successive contract terms, unless either party shall serve written notice on or before the January 20th. We wanted to clean that instead of March 1st, the January 20th of each year. I think that's in line with the 160 days that Century Code says we have to. I think January 20th or potentially January 21st, but I don't think there's a leap year with our negotiations. So it's falls in line with the 160 days prior to open up for negotiations. So anyways, wanted to get that on there.
Okay, so this, just for clarification, this is just the notice to open. This isn't anything other than.
Right.
Okay.
Looking, yes, that's correct. Proposal number two, I think this falls in line with what we discussed earlier. I think your proposal 5, family sick bank language, we just wanted to clean that up. Teachers will be allowed to participate in the family sick leave bank, which I think it's now being referred to. And it says, which is in District 7 policy, as we understand it, it got moved to administrative regulation, and we just wanted that to reflect. Proposal number 3. Oh, yep. Okay. All right. With proposal number 3, prep time. So this would be working conditions. As it's written right now, it is the goal. We'd like to get rid of goal. We'd like to establish a minimum of 300 minutes of guaranteed prep time. Also in the second bullet there, it says elementary classroom teachers preparation time includes at least 2 days per full 5-day week of uninterrupted prep time between the end of the student contact day to the end of the school workday, unless impractical, that we'd like to strike that. It's kind of ambiguous. Impractical could be one thing to one administrator and not quite another to another administrator. In our proposals, we wanted to get the rationale there as well. Our rationale for prep time, guaranteed prep time is essential for teachers because it directly impacts the quality of education students receive. One, lesson planning and instructional quality. Teachers need dedicated time to plan engaging and effective lessons, assess student progress, and adjust instruction to meet diverse learning needs. Without sufficient prep time, lesson quality can suffer, ultimately affecting our student achievement. Two, grading and feedback. Providing timely and meaningful feedback is crucial for student growth. Prep time allows teachers to review student work, give constructive feedback, and tailor future lessons accordingly. Three, collaboration and professional development. Teachers often collaborate with colleagues to develop curriculum, share best practices, and discuss student progress. Prep time enables these crucial professional conversations that improve overall instructional effectiveness. Four, classroom management and organization. A well-organized classroom contributes to a positive learning environment. Teachers use prep time to set up materials, adjust seating arrangements, and ensure everything is ready for the next lesson. Five, teachers' well-being and retention. Overloading teachers without sufficient prep time leads to burnout, stress, and ultimately higher turnover rates. Protecting our prep time helps maintain a healthy work-life balance, ensuring that teachers remain engaged and motivated. By guaranteeing uninterrupted prep time, schools invest in both teacher effectiveness and student success, fostering a stronger, more sustainable education system. At the bottom, we view this as a no-cost proposal.
I think we agree with you that preparation time is important. I don't think there's any dispute on that. I have a couple questions. One, how often is it not being met right now? Talks about the goal being 300 minutes. And then, for the elementary piece there, how often is that not happening?
Yeah, I did look at all the schedules and as of now, it is being met. There's a couple instances where we have a fifth grade classroom at Missouri Ridge where they are at 250 minutes, but they were given the choice to have an added recess in to their day. And the team of teachers chose to not take out an instructional time. So, and how I figure it is I only figured 2 nights a week where there's guaranteed no meetings, where most of the elementaries are getting at least 3. So if you add in that third night, then they are for sure getting it. It's such a slippery slope when figuring this out. Just for the people listening, so everyone knows how to figure this out, and you maybe don't have as much interest in it, but I do take out 8 to 8:15, and I don't include that because there's some some schools have to go get their kids off the playground. Some don't, so it's not consistent who's getting it. I also remove PLC time and bar time because those usually are happening within a prep period. So most of the schools, I'm figuring 4 days a week, they're getting 60 minutes. There was one school where they have bar and PLC weekly, so they're getting 3 days of 60 minutes. So in the end, if you factor in that most are getting more than 2 nights a week without meetings, I'm confident to say that everyone has met the minimum. The other thing is again, for people who are listening, I don't calculate after school prep time until 3:15. Because some schools, even though they dismiss at 3, they have bus duty. So 3:15 to 3:50 is what I've calculated, so. I am very confident that everyone is getting a minimum of 300 minutes in the classrooms.
Okay.
And that includes PE, music, title teachers as well, and library teachers.
Forgive me for asking, because I may have misunderstood part of that.
Yep.
If everybody is getting the minimum of 300, respectfully, what problem are we solving? I
we're,
understand that there was a little bit of an issue you talked about earlier with, the fifth grade and taking recess.
yeah.
Maybe I'm missing.
Yeah, but they are technically getting it if they only have meetings 2 nights a week, if they're getting extra. Because the contract states that, elementary teachers have 2 nights where they cannot have meetings, but the principal can schedule up to 3. But most of the schools are getting more than 2. So that's why I feel confident in saying that everyone is getting their minutes. I think for us, maybe we're looking at it as kind of a language cleanup too. If we're getting it, then can we take out the goal?
My recollection, I remember being involved with discussions on that, and, part of the, number of different concerns come up, I guess, one of them being, what happens if you don't? Right now, you've identified this as a no-cost proposal. So if you took the language that you proposed here, and it says that every teacher will be given a minimum of 300 minutes, and done that, and taken out the less than practical, what happens if that isn't met for some circumstance? What then?
Well, it's been our understanding in the past when we've attempted to remove the goal, the school boards we've worked with have said, well, if the principal isn't making every effort to ensure that they're getting 300 minutes, then we suggest they file a grievance. So I think that really either route, you could file a grievance based on if it's a goal or not, but if we're removing the goal, then it feels like we have more to work with in there.
What would I'm just thinking of something happens for some reason that it just isn't, the 300 minutes isn't hit for a short period of time, something like that. If you file a grievance, have the right to file an agreement on that, and what's the remedy?
I think they'd have to look at a schedule change, like how can we, hopefully it would be not over, it wouldn't be short 300 minutes by a lot, and a schedule change would be the remedy is. I know in the past when fifth grade was part of the Bell schedule, and I think didn't they have 1 year where teachers were on extended contracts because they were over student contact minutes? The remedy was the schedule change. Like we just have to find a schedule that's going to allow for 325 minutes. And I think that would be the remedy here is we just want to work with the principal, the administrator to get the allotted 300 minutes.
What I'm hearing is you want more teeth behind what we're saying here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have proposal number 4. I'm not gonna read this one word for word. This was within our subcommittee, the extra duty pay schedule and adjustments for extracurriculars. The following is a proposal from WEA based on the discussions held during the extra duty committee. February 26th, this proposal includes the recommended additions, revisions, considerations for adjustment of the extra duty program and pay schedule, which will be presented to the school board for consideration, which we are doing now. The only note that I would make is down with the additional considerations. I talked with Chris. So if the base salary does not increase as a part of these negotiations, we would also like to request further discussion regarding the following positions, and that's WHS Student Council and WHS Yearbook. That I let those 2 slip through the cracks during our subcommittee meeting. Chalk it up to a rookie mistake, maybe, or ignorance. I'm not sure. Either way, both aren't acceptable, and that's my fault. So I just wanted to make note that, we discussed those two things to bring those in line with more of their job responsibilities throughout the year, make sure their pay represents that. So that would be the only note I have. Other than that, it should be a verbatim of what we brought out of the committee. Question, any potential questions there?
I don't think I have any right now. If we get.
We have proposal number 5, flexible summer professional development. So this would also fall under licensing and continuing ed. This would be an addition. This would be a new section. Flexible summer professional development. Licensed teachers may substitute one designated in-school professional development day by completing 8 hours of pre-approved summer PD. All PD activities must align with district goals or the educator's professional development plan and be pre-approved by building administration. Approved activities may include workshops, conferences, webinars, curriculum planning, or district endorsed training. Teachers must submit documentation through a district provided Google form by August 15th, including verification of hours, activity descriptions, and a brief reflection on instructional relevance, making sure that what they're taking is relevant. Teachers who fulfill the summer PD requirement are still required to report to the school on the designated blanket PD day, but will be released from PD sessions and may use that time to work in their classrooms on instructional planning. The FSPD option does not reduce total contract days, but provides a flexible, educator-driven opportunity to meet professional development expectations. And then our rationale underneath the flexible summer professional development initiative allows teachers to complete 1 day of professional learning during the summer in exchange for time during the school year to focus on classroom prep and planning. Teachers who meet this requirement maintain their contractual presence on PD days, but are given autonomy to use that time meaningfully. This promotes relevant, targeted professional growth while reducing the strain of generalized PD sessions, leading to smoother school year launch and improved teacher satisfaction and retention. See this as a no-cost item. The goal, the goal and the intent here is blanket PD days can be pretty tough for those that PD doesn't directly affect. For example, I'm a FIA teacher, and if I'm sitting in, how to write an essay 101, well, those things are good. They don't necessarily coincide with my curriculum and prepping my classroom to get ready for the school year. What we want to do is give teachers the option in the summer to go seek relevant professional development, and they would be able to take that time that they spend in the summer and substitute 1 day. And the intent was, as I was looking at it and we were discussing it, and as I was reading it out loud again, we kind of missed a little bit of it, was more of at the start of the school year. So not you get to choose whenever you want, but when we start throwing out some of our blanket PD days, we could perhaps give options to teachers to seek their professional development over the summer, and they'd be able to substitute one of those blanket PD days that would allow them to be in their classroom. They're still required to fulfill their contract time. They have to be on campus. But we'd like to steer them into their classrooms so maybe they could use that time a little more meaningful, was the intent.
So Seth Thompson's interested in taking, I'm an English teacher, I'm interested in taking some form of workshop. I come forward, talk to administration, say, if this is happening on this date, this is what I'd like to do. This is why, I'd like to do this. If I get permission to do it, I would then have to bring my, bring the receipts, as the kids say nowadays, by August 15th, show that I did it, to get the credit, to get all of that.
This is kind of an earn it before you
Earn
use
it
it type
before you
deal,
use
so
it.
you do it
Yep.
this summer and you can use it.
Correct.
next school year.
Yeah, but not 2 years down the road, or it's just in the summer.
So some of the PD that we do is we bring in professionals at a very large cost to the district.
Mhm.
What about those specific days? I think that administration would have to have flexibility with mandatory days that nobody would be allowed to miss. Because there are certain things that though they may not specifically apply and you may not be interested in, it may be very important to the overall productivity, what they're trying to accomplish within the district. So I think that's something that I would like to see how that would fit. And then cost of this to an educator right now, when the district does PD days, we cover the cost of those individuals coming in. That would then be a cost specifically that educator would take on by choosing to do this outside
Correct.
as their option.
And we did write in, your blanket PD day can only be used for one, so if the district did have, something they required everyone to be at, if there's 3 days before school, they could use that day on one of the two that's not required for us.
And
Makes
and
sense.
if I, like, the McKinney Vento and but like, those have to be done every year. There's just no way around it. Right. So.
I'm just referencing more towards maybe there's some specific initiative outside what the law requires that maybe the admin want to ensure that everybody has been involved in and a part of, that would still be covered and acceptable to ensure that people weren't able that total flexibility to say, I just don't want to go to that. That doesn't interest me.
But it aligns with the district's values,
the
so
districts and
the
where-
vision and where we want to go, so.
Can I give an example?
that'd be
So
great.
I go to Ignite every year. I've seen Leslie, I can't think of her last name. Fisher, yeah.
Mhm.
She's a great speaker on AI, but I've seen her 4 times already. And then the school brought her in, so I sat through another session that I've already seen. So if that was done at the beginning of the year and I could opt out and spend that 7 hours in my classroom, that would be more valuable to me than seeing her for a 5th time.
Thank you. I know you are an expert on AI.
She is the tech lady.
I use it quite often.
And I just learned it and sat through her session for the first time, and it was mind blowing. Anyways. Good, that, okay. We have proposal number 6, working conditions. This would be a new section, individual teacher contracts. Each teacher contract shall include the educator's specific assignment and work location for the upcoming school year. Job title shall reflect the instructional level and or subject area, e.g., I 3rd grade teacher, at Wilkinson, middle school science teacher, and shall include the building in which the teacher is primarily assigned, Lewis and Clark, for example. Our rationale is 1, professional recognition. Naming job titles affirms the specialized roles of educators and reinforces professional identity. 2, contract clarity, clearly stating job titles reduces ambiguity about employees' assignment, which supports accurate staffing, budgeting, and accountability. 3, legal and grievance clarity in the event of a dispute regarding placement or duties. Specific contract language strengthens that clarity and supports a fair resolution. 4, equity and transparency. Teachers across levels and specialties such as special education, music, and multi-grade classrooms should have the same visibility and acknowledgement for their unique roles. This is consistent with hiring practices when teachers apply for positions or request a transfer, they do so for a specific assignment, such as a kindergarten teacher at Wilkinson Elementary or high school biology. It is inconsistent and misleading for contracts to then revert to the generic label of teacher, disregarding the role for which they were specifically hired or signed. So it would align better with our hiring practices when we post a job on the district website. It'll say fourth grade teacher at McVeigh, first grade teacher at Williston Clark, high school biology teacher, 9 through 12, right? Is what we're trying to get to.
What happens if all of the contracts specify that? And they all specify, that building locations and all of that, and something happens and we need, we have a need over at another school where we have to look at potential transfer or something like that. What is the district going to be able to do in that situation if the contract specifies that this is it, this is where it's at?
I think as we were looking at it, and when we get to our reassignment proposal that will follow that, we do recognize there has to be flexibility there, right, to meet the district's needs. Also, we find it a touch odd that potentially, not saying that it happens a lot, but potentially, say someone applies for the fourth grade Wilkinson job, that's what they see, that's their passion, we love fourth grade. We apply for the fourth grade Wilkinson job, get the fourth grade Wilkinson job, we're excited about the fourth grade Wilkinson job, only to find out a week later that they're no longer the fourth grade Wilkinson teacher. In fact, you are just a teacher at the disposal of the district. So we're just hoping to better clarify that.
Okay.
What other districts do this in the state of North Dakota? Are there any other school districts that specifically do this type of contract?
I have not looked.
That's something I don't have for you, but I'd be happy to get that for you.
Yes, please.
And for clarification's sake, from my standpoint, are you requesting this for a specific year, or are you saying that I'm hired as the third grade teacher at Williston Clark Elementary based off of my continuing contract? I expect that I would stay the third grade teacher at Williston Clark, or what's your guys' intent there?
That would be the expectation that if I was hired as the K-12, or excuse me, if I was hired as the 9-12 PE teacher at Williston High School, my expectation and hope would then be that the following year I'd still be 9-12 PE at Williston High School.
And 30 years down the road, it would be the same.
I hope to be here 30 years down the road. But that's the intent, is to keep that symmetry.
Yeah, well, maybe some of my questions will be hit once they hit your next proposal, but once you put it in a contract. Oh, wait, give me one second.
Yep. All right, number 7. Compensation for reassignment. In our working conditions, this would be a new section. This potentially piggybacks a little bit off of number 6. In the event that a certified staff member is involuntarily reassigned, which we experienced this last summer. When within 60 days of the first contract of that involuntarily reassigned, within 60 days of the first contract, the district shall provide a stipend of $500. If the reassignment occurs within 30 days of the first contract day, the stipend shall increase to $1,000. If the change occurs after the contract year has begun, the impact teacher shall receive a flat stipend of $2,500. Prior to any such reassignment, the administration shall engage in direct conversation with the impacted staff member, and whenever possible, offer them a choice between available open positions at the current school that they're at. If the reassignment requires a classroom move, the district shall assign personnel to handle all aspects of the move, including the packing and transport and setup, to allow the teacher to focus on instructional planning. These provisions are intended to ensure fairness and workload distribution and recognize the professional effort required to adapt to last-minute changes. Note in there, this excludes any voluntary change initiated by the teacher. If the teacher says, hey, this is something I want to do a day before the school year starts, that burden falls on them. Our rationale is each year teachers carefully plan their workload based on their assigned positions, contractual obligations, and professional responsibilities. However, as the start of the school year approaches, some educators are reassigned. These last-minute changes create significant challenges, including increased workload, disruptions to preparation, and undue stress. To ensure fairness and proper compensation for these unplanned adjustments, WIA proposes a financial penalty to the district when teachers are reassigned within a set time frame before the start of the school year. This recognizes the additional preparation time and workload caused by the unexpected changes, encourages the district to make staffing decisions in a timely and organized manner, ensures teachers are fairly compensated for any of these disruptions to professional planning. Cost hopefully zero, right? I understand that in here, we need to provide flexibility. We get that, but our goal is to encourage our leadership plan appropriately so that we're not pulling teachers last minute from one building to another or changing their jobs entirely, a week or two before school starts.
Those changes, what are the circumstances behind a lot of that? Sometimes it could be related to, influx of students that maybe wasn't expected in an area of school or something like that. How is that planned out, or how is that, part of what you're saying is it's designed to penalize to try and encourage better planning.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some times where there are circumstances certainly outside the district's control, such as that issue, or forbid something terrible happen and people are unable to work, or something like that.
I would say most cases, teachers aren't told what their circumstances are.
Okay.
That they get notification that they're getting moved. They don't get explanations as to why it's moved. There's just an opening that needs to be filled. We don't know why that opening is now needing to be filled. And you're put into that position. That goes back to that wishing that there was some discussion that occurred with administration and teachers so that you can understand where teachers are coming from and why we can understand why the need. We understand the chaos within the buildings. We understand being short. But if there's 4 openings in the building I'm currently at, and you're not going to send me to another school without giving me the opportunity to stay in one of those positions that I'm qualified for, it's going to make me mad because I'm like, why? I don't understand why I can't stay in the building.
What needs to happen?
It was a mess last year.
This summer is really what stemmed this piece for us.
Just, could you give me an estimate of how many reassignments took place?
Yeah,
Well, it was all of our instructional coaches, strategists, a number of people.
From tech people.
Yeah, tech
As well.
people, tech coaches.
so I think our intent is some voice and some choice. And do we want to encourage the dialogue and the plan? And if those things aren't in place, then we feel a penalty would be appropriate.
And these are two proposals that we have brought in the past. I don't remember how many years ago. Matt,
I know
you
that I've
but-
seen,
But they have come up in the past too, so I think it's previous cycles ago, maybe, or I don't know.
I guess I'd be more privy to the folks last summer that were
Yeah,
pretty disgruntled about.
so I mean, it's happened in the past and then
Okay.
we might come up again this summer too, is where it kind of,
so we're talking about the contract under your proposal would specify your specific assignment and work location. Seth is the third grade teacher at this school. When you talk about reassignment then, you're not talking about just a relocation. If I'm, at school, at this particular school, and I'm having to do something different than being, the third grade teacher at that specific school, is that a reassignment under this?
Yes.
What if I'm reassigned? And, perhaps it's not a permanent thing or a temporary thing, but I get to come back. Is that another reassignment or is that?
That's a good question.
come back within that same school year, you mean?
Yeah,
Or
that's kind of what I was,
it's a temporary reassignment?
Reassign and then reassign back.
I'm just trying to think through scenarios. I mean, I don't know
Yes.
how often that would be something that occurs, but I always wanna.
I think maybe using the instructional coach as a strategist, maybe as an example, I think some of what spurred that was certainly the lack of ability to fill some of the open teaching positions, so it was a necessity at that point to put some of those people within classrooms. Now, I guess ultimately, if the district maybe found some teachers mid-year and now they've got a classroom teacher, maybe some of those instructional coaches or strategists could revert back to the original position. That might be an example of where it would be.
Okay,
Right.
that makes
applicable, I
sense,
guess.
yeah.
Right. And I think this would be a great piece to have Seth
Maybe that could be tweaked so that.
help
you've got
maneuver
type of
that so that
language
we're
in
not,
there that-
because the last thing we want to do is hamstring the district. That's not the goal. But the goal is to give some voice and choice and lend ourselves to being a little bit more organized. We understand there has to be a certain level of flexibility there. Mr. Gentile just mentioned, hey, out of necessity. True, right? We see that, we see that side as well, so.
Any other Class A districts that have any sort of reassignment penalty clause in their contract that you're aware of?
We can get it,
We
that
can-
information,
yeah,
we can look that up.
You want Class A districts?
Yeah,
Is that what you
that's
said?
typically. Here, I guess our contract. See.
Well, I just. One of the things I see with this is, there's always that flexibility within. We're seeing an educator that they might not fit in an environment. And they're given that Wilkinson job, right, third grade, they're third grade teacher at Wilkinson, that's the only place. But they don't fit that environment necessarily, and they have that continuing contract right for the next year. But we've seen educators move to other buildings and be absolute rock stars, and they fit a new environment. If that move wasn't initiated by administration, what are you looking at when that person doesn't work and now they're just going to go down the route of, well, we're not gonna renew them because they don't work, and they enter that environment of now it's no longer collaboration of us moving you into another environment where you're gonna work, I can see that becoming an issue and saying, well, they got their continuing contract rights for next year. We don't even have to discuss with them. We're just gonna go down that route of.
And we're hoping that's where leadership steps in, and they can have those meaningful conversations and help facilitate that stuff. What we're really hoping to prevent is, Mr. Junt's our first grade Wilkinson teacher, and in July 30th, we go, oh, you need a fourth grade teacher at McVeigh. Mr. Junt, just to let you know that you are now the fourth grade teacher at McVeigh. Right, we want there to be those meaningful conversations with admin. We want there to be a little bit of voice and choice. Hey, we noticed that you're at Wilkinson and we have other positions here at Wilkinson. You've been here for 22 years and you've developed strong relationships with these folks. Maybe do any of these other positions suit your skill set, right? We definitely want to encourage that dialogue. What we want to discourage is just a yank midway through the summer, an upheaval, and now we're left.
Doesn't ultimately, in that situation, if you need to fill this position over here, and that process goes forward where you have the discussion with administration and you stay where you're at, isn't it still the district's still gonna have to fill that position that was originally talked about, so it's almost kind of like a de facto seniority system. Then if you're going, then we're gonna go find the next person and ask. I mean,
Sure.
I'm trying to,
But realistically, what happened last year is because there was no voice in it. Not only do you have now that open position that you are yanking somebody to fill, that person said, I'm out of here, and now you have two positions to fill. Instead of having that conversation that if they would have been allowed to have a voice in, they probably would have stayed in the district. But because there was no conversation and no consideration, people left. And they left by fairly good numbers last year when they just wanted to be heard. And you guys read some of the letters from people who resigned. They just wanted to be heard and they weren't even allowed to be heard. Like people wanted to go back to the schools they had been, or even their old jobs were open. And they weren't allowed to go back to that. Nope, you're going to go to this school. So it's just being considerate and involving, if you want us to be a bigger part of keeping this district together, we need to have a voice, I think. And that's what a lot of teachers feel, is that there's no voice. If there's this, there's us, and we're chess pieces. We just get moved around. And by simply having conversation, the district would not be losing as many people as they have lost. Because they don't want to talk. They just want to move people. And we understand, we're the people in the classrooms. We're the ones who are doubling up because there's not subs, there's not teachers. So we understand, but I don't think it's a whole lot to ask to just simply say, hey, let's sit down at the table. We've got these positions. We'd like to be able to shift you. Where can we go with you?
Has that been the process recently though? Under current administration? Has that?
Well,
been
current administration's been here for
or-
a week, so.
This year, I'm asking just.
Former administration, current administration, not as far as I know with current administration. Previous administration that was here prior to Dr. Jorgensen, yes.
I don't think we'll know until.
Right.
Now it'll get into the hot seats where we're like, okay, how many people are resigning? What seats do we have open and how are we gonna adjust? So I think we will see now current administration, but we haven't yet because it hasn't come up.
Oh, I just asked because I thought they were going through that process right now and moving people in buildings.
Transfers, so they're voluntary,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
so-
what I was
Yeah,
asking.
we have volunteer transfers like that, but people are concerned that they're gonna get notified that they're getting transferred without them necessarily wanting to.
Seth, would it be fair if we kept going? I know,
Yes,
I'm sorry, I
absolutely. Yeah.
kind of got
Yeah.
stuck there for a minute.
I'm,
Um,
and don't,
And we still got plenty more to.
Yeah, one quick point, don't take my questions whenever I dig into questions as a, you know. this
Oh, no,
is
they're great.
Not gonna be
They're great.
considered.
They're great
I-
questions. Those are
I
things that we
appreciate
need
the
to
dialogue
consider.
and the passion, you know, showing us,
Absolutely. You bet.
but sometimes I talk.
There we go. All right, we have proposal number 8, the strong instructional workforce / teacher retention bonus. I know this one's got monetary tied to it. We thought it was a minimal monetary amount, so we'd like to get that out there. In recognition of the valuable contributions to our most experienced educators, Williston Basin 7 shall implement a teacher retention bonus for certified staff who have reached the final step of the salary schedule in the master's call. So this is our very last cell, if you will. Eligibility to qualify for this bonus. We have to be placed on the final step of the salary schedule under the master's column, be employed full-time with the Williston Basic Public Schools, and have completed at least one full contract year at that step. So you can't just show up at that step and then be eligible. You have to spend a year at that step in order to be eligible. The bonus amount and disbursement, so eligible teachers shall receive an annual retention bonus of $2,000. The bonus shall be paid as a lump sum at the beginning of the school year. The rationale is a retention bonus is designed to recognize and reward our experienced master's level educators for their continued dedication and service, offset the lack of salary growth for employees who no longer receive that step. Support the district's goal of maintaining a strong instructional workforce by encouraging long-term retention of our highly qualified, most seasoned teachers who contribute to leadership, mentorship, and instructional excellence. Our cost analysis, $2,150 with FICA is how we figured that. No TFFR involved, since it would be classified as a bonus. That's how I understand the bonus language. Hopefully I'm right, that no TFFR would be associated with that. Next year, we're looking at 20 teachers, assuming they all return. Typically, this is our cell though that retires. Right, yeah. So the intent is just to recognize that last cell, do our best to guarantee that each year, as I understand it, if insurance premiums go up or things go up, this would help offset that cost and guarantee that they're not losing money. And also, these are typically our saltiest teachers. This is our leadership. We've seen some of these folks move into early retirement, take jobs with Montreal Williams or Diamond Resources, and take different jobs, retire early, if you will, and move out into the oil field. Maybe this helps hold on to those teachers a little bit longer. That's our hope.
Just so I'm clear, we're talking about the absolute end, the very last.
The very last cell, only that cell.
Can't go down, can't go.
Okay,
And this would be an annual, so every year that they're.
Not progressive. So it's not 2,000 this year. That means I get 4,000 next. Nope, it's just a flat fee. Or a flat bonus, if you will. Number 9, just part push up. Okay. Number 9 is our CSS. It's working conditions. It's a counselor support stipend. So licensed school counselors shall receive an annual counselor support stipend of $6,000 beginning in the 25-26 school year. This stipend recognizes the ongoing responsibility of counselors to fulfill beyond the contractual workday including crisis response, student advocacy, academic advising, and mental health support. These duties often occur during students' non-instructional times. The CSS is provided in lieu of an extended contract and does not replace the compensation for pre and post-year duties. To be eligible, counselors must hold a valid North Dakota counselor credential. They have to be employed as a school counselor by the district, perform duties consistent with the expectations of the role. The CSS will be paid in equal installments throughout the school year. Our rationale, the counselor support stipend recognizes the invaluable contributions of our school counselors and provides them with additional compensation for essential work they perform throughout the school year. While counselors currently receive additional pay for duties at the beginning and the end of the year, this stipend specifically acknowledges the ongoing daily responsibilities that extend beyond their contractual obligations, oftentimes leading to no breaks, no lunch, and even meetings beyond the school day. School counselors serve as academic advisors, mental health support providers, crisis intervention specialists, and student advocates, roles that have become increasingly demanding as students' needs continue to grow. The CSS proposes a recurring stipend to fairly compensate counselors for their expanded duties, ensuring their workload is properly recognized and supported. This investment not only values the expertise and dedication of our counseling staff, but also reinforces the district's commitment to the student well-being and academic success. The cost analysis at $6,000 each plus TFFR and FICA comes to a total cost roughly $8,125. We have 14 counselors and we ran that to $113,000.
What did you come up with $6,000?
I tried to use the little bit of the 1/7 formula to see what 1/7 looked like for most counselors. And that came to right about an average cost.
Do you have any other, are you aware of any other districts doing this?
We can certainly pull that. Class A. We can get that information. Helpful. All right,
And this is still outside of the additional.
the additional
10
days that
days.
they work free before school.
Yep.
And so instead of offering counselors an extended contract, here's your stipend. And now we expect,
So the 10 days comp goes away in lieu of this? No.
so we have our days before the school year starts. That I think it's they work and are they paid at their daily rate? Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay, so they're paid at their daily rate for those additional days before the school year, and then they're paid at their daily rate at the end. So this is, instead of trying to get the counselors on a quote unquote extended contract for missing lunches and the different things that they do, instead of an extended contract, we'd offer counselors, it'd just be a stipend. And I know at the high school, we really try to promote the kids advocating for themselves and getting into the counselors and seeing those counselors. And when those kids at the high school, the only time they can do that from a non-instructional time, because we don't want kids missing class to go see their counselors to advocate for themselves. A lot of times that falls during the lunch hours and different things like that. After school, sometimes there are crisis things that require counselors to spend time after school with students. So we just wanted to recognize that, attach a stipend to those efforts. Yeah. I guess ultimately acknowledge that effort that they're putting in.
Thank you.
All right. Oof, this one, so. SPED has taken us a long time to try and come up with something that makes sense, and this is, we really want to lean into you all as well with special ed, especially since we're taking it on now as a district. And we're not relying on Wilmac, so we spent a fair amount of time with our special ed folks. We've got a hold of other contracts from other Class A schools in the state. We've pulled some resources. I want to say it's from San Diego school districts, looked at some of the things they were doing there. They were kind of viewed a little bit as ahead of the curve as it relates to special ed. So here's our best foot forward with special ed, and then again, we'll definitely look forward to fleshing this thing out in the coming weeks. So proposal number 10, special ed compensation. This would be a new section. In recognition of the additional responsibilities inherent in managing individualized education programs, IEPs, conducting assessments, complying with the IDEA requirements, coordinating services, and supervising paraprofessionals, all licensed special education teachers who serve as case managers shall receive an annual stipend of $7,000. And I know this one's a big monetary one, but we wanted to get this one in your hands early. That was important so that we can spend as much time with this as we can to get this right. This amount shall be prorated for part-time employees based on their FTE in order to provide adequate training to paraprofessionals at the beginning of the school year. Our special ed teachers will be also contracted for 3 additional days, similar to counselors, how we give them a little bit of time before the school year starts. Our special ed teachers would be given that same amount of time to train up their paraprofessionals. This stipend reflects the professional time and expertise required outside of the general education workload and is consistent with regional practices to support recruitment and retention of qualified special ed staff. Our rationale at the bottom: to recognize and equitably compensate special education teachers for their unique and significant responsibilities beyond those of general education staff. SPED teachers routinely perform complex legally mandated duties, including case management, IEP development, service coordination, and compliance documentations. These responsibilities extend well beyond classroom instruction and general prep time. Many districts in North Dakota and across the region already recognize these extra duties with stipends. For example, Fargo Public Schools provides $6,000 stipend to SPED case managers. Offering this stipend enhances retention and recruitment by acknowledging workload realities and reducing burnout, factors directly tied to staffing shortages in special education. We have currently 30 special education teachers. Rough numbers, we're looking at a big chunk of change here, about $275,000 as it's written for the compensation side of SPED.
Help me out here.
Well, I'll do the best I can.
All licensed special education teachers who serve as case manager. Describe the case manager piece to me. Is that all special education teachers, or do some special education teachers serve as case managers and some don't?
As I know, everybody in the district who is a SPED teacher has some sort of case management duties because they're the ones who are in charge of those student-specific IEPs.
Okay, that's, in my mind, I was thinking, don't they all do IEP? My mom was a
Right.
special education.
Yes,
And it just said who serve as case managers. I was just trying to see if there was some additional.
I think it's the terminology that SPED teachers use for themselves, that they're the case manager for the students and not that they're the SPED teacher.
Okay. In your previous proposal, you were the $6,000 back in, you were identifying equal installments throughout the year. Is that your thoughts on this?
Yes,
Okay.
equal installments. I should have better.
I'm not being critical. I
Oh,
mean,
no,
there's
it's-
always all kinds of different nuances. Any questions?
And then tied right behind it, it's proposal number 11. As it relates to, I guess this would be more working conditions / caseloads on the special ed side of things. This is where we're definitely wanting to reach across the aisle and see how we can't figure this one out. A caseload formula. The district and association agreed to implement some kind of caseload formula to ensure equitable distribution of work among our educators there. Caseload maximums, and this is, and we came to be based off of best practice. Amanda did a nice job pulling a lot of information from throughout the state and the country. And then listening to our special ed teachers, their concerns. And so caseload maximums, 7 to 10 students in a self-contained SPED classroom. And that's based on the needs and severity of these students. 20 students maximum for general resource teachers. So for the kids that are constantly coming in and out of maybe your resource rooms, that how.
Yeah, like
explain
your
that,
general
Amanda?
education teacher that works with the academic side. So if a kid has like 150 IEP minutes a week on reading and math. So not the self-contained classrooms.
And then our EDs and IDs, caseload review and adjustment, the district will conduct caseload reviews twice annually. That seems to be a pretty standard practice. Special educators may request a caseload review at any time based on changes in student assignment or workload. If a teacher's caseload exceeds recommended limits, they shall be eligible for either additional compensation or perhaps reduction in duties to be determined collaboratively between the teacher, building administrator, and the special services director. Due process and case management time. In the case of a teacher being part of a due process case, a SPED teacher will be granted up to 3 days of professional leave for each case to prepare for the hearings. Teachers who are required to attend IEP or evaluation meetings outside of the contract day shall be compensated using the meetings beyond the school day form. SPED teachers can claim up to 42 hours per year. SPED teachers will be paid at their daily rate converted to an hourly wage for that. Teachers may request up to 3 paperwork days per semester without needing to prepare lesson plans. This will be approved by the supervising principal based on timelines and due process needs. Our rationale to ensure equitable distribution of student assignments and workload among SPED teachers using a transparent weighted formula. HB 1547, see that Mr. Richter sponsored that bill, is a study bill that passed looking into the funding needs of SPED. House Bill 1530 is another study bill on the circumstances and needs of special education teachers and the related special education teacher shortage that passed this session. We want to try and lead the way with special ed. We're getting a blank slate. Most districts have been in charge of their own special ed for years. We're just now taking it over. So we're looking at trying to get something really good in place there to take care of our SPED folks. Those teachers definitely aren't growing on trees. So whatever we can do to get good language in that helps the district, protects the district, and takes care of our SPED teachers and our SPED kids. That would be tremendous. You know, get to speak as a father. My daughter's at Wilkinson in the special ed program. She's been at Wilkinson in the special ed program, and they need some help, and I think we can get it to them. I think we can. So, like I said, I know that's a big one, and we just wanted to get that on the table with you all as quickly as we could, so that we can start fleshing that out and do the best we can for them. Our justification on the end is on the other page. That's continued. Without a defined caseload framework, some teachers experience unmanageable and equitable workloads, which leads to compliance issues and staff turnover. I forget the term they use for it, but hey, we noticed that you're doing a really good job. Here's some more, right? So we want to see if we can't put some language there that could prevent that. The SPED collective retention rubric stresses that districts with clear collaborative caseload formulas, they better support staff and retain teachers. Establishing a data-informed formula ensures students receive required services while protecting staff from exceeding legal and professional workload limits. And then these are some of our cost analysis for some of those things.
What is the SPED collective retention rubric?
Would it be okay if we had a member of the SPED collective in attendance? Would it be okay if we asked for this?
So North Dakota United has a SPED collective that meets every third Wednesday of the month via Zoom. Me and Amber Haskell and others, field consultant from Grand Forks, head that, and together with SPED teachers, that actually part of that House Bill 1530 that was used in that as well. It's a rubric that the SPED teachers throughout the state have come up with and focuses on things that hinder retention, are kind of neutral, or things that help retention. So we took things from that help retention to help draft this. I can get you guys a copy of that retention rubric that we have. I just think it'll break up. I can get that. Yeah, it's developed through the state and our and United SPED Collective.
Interested in seeing it. What is, if I could ask, what is the plan? So with these two pieces of legislation, they're both study bills, and my understanding they've passed, or just they would be just waiting on the government, the governor to sign.
Yep, they're waiting on the governor.
There'll be a interim committee assigned to study that, come up with a report. Is the plan then that they would study and then, just like other, situations like that, and make a recommendation to the next legislature, or is there any different time frame on?
I believe it's the plan to make a study for the next legislature. Yeah.
Under the caseload review and adjustments, item 3, where if the teacher's caseload exceeds the recommended limits, they're eligible for either additional compensation or a reduction in duties. How is additional compensation defined here? Is that negotiated between the teacher, building administrator, and special services director, or what's kind of the intent there?
Could be in the form of an extended contract, could be possibly negotiated within with the building administrator. We were thinking more of the lines of extended contract language.
If the caseload, because the caseload can vary. What if you exceed that? I mean, then you end up with the extended contract situation, or what, if it's going up, going down, what would the?
Sure, so I think what you're getting at is,
How would we address fluctuating?
right, so we've exceeded the caseload, but then 3 of those students move out of district, and now we're back under that. It's a good question. I think, and I think that would be one that I think we can find a way together to hopefully find some language there that can best suit our teachers in that department.
How many due process cases occur each year?
I don't have any numbers on that. It was just a topic that was brought up that there's different levels. So like when a parent has a problem with an IEP, they can dispute it, so they go to like mediation. If they don't solve it there, then they go to the due process, which is a much more intense situation. I couldn't tell you how many within the district, but we could probably try to get.
Mrs. Ratzak, are you guys okay with me responding?
Okay. Yo.
I'll be able to talk to Sean Hess about that too, because I think there's only been 7 to 10 at the maximum this year, maybe.
And
That's just a guess.
I'm not for certain, but it sounds like the due process is a much more intense process, the due process claims. So from what I gather, okay,
Yeah.
okay, so it sounds like those sped teachers need that time away to prep for that.
The one thing I would say with respect to that, well, we can talk about this more. I mean, I've seen a number of instances where the request gets put in and the due process here gets scheduled and all of those sorts of things, but it never happens.
Oh.
Not saying that there might not have been prep on the front end of that, but something I noted. Just curiously, so on proposal 10, we're identifying the stipend and recognizing, and I do recognize these are challenging positions. That my mother was a special education teacher, I do understand what you're talking about. Part of the justification here is for, IE development and all of those sorts of things and whatnot, and at the same time, on this proposal, it's seeking another, set of compensation and all of that, for the same kind of, under B, teachers are required to attend IEP meetings outside and all of that, and, they can claim these hours. We're kind of addressing it twice is what I'm just
Sure, a
asking.
bit redundant.
Yeah, and I'm not being
No, that's
critical one way or the other, I'm
That's
just
good.
kind of pointing out.
Excellent.
Like Jeff said too, I mean, we are willing to work with you guys on how to write language that's gonna benefit sped teachers and draw sped teachers to our district, so.
The other concern that I had just with the layout of this, do we have sped specific substitutes available within the district to handle the number of days that we're requesting they be eligible to leave? Because that's a very specific classroom that we would say you can have 3 days out, you can have 3 days out, that we're trying to now put a substitute in there that may have the complete inability to work with students of that degree.
Right.
We could hear from our expert.
No, I wouldn't.
I'm just highlighting the concern.
But they're overseas special ed, so.
So we do have some that do specifically special ed. There are some retired teachers out there that will, if you call them, they'll say, yep, we'll come in and just do for this teacher because it's a special ed teacher. Now, do we have enough of them? No, so that they would be regular ed teachers.
And yeah, we can certainly just see what happens, how this evolves with each one as they go. But that's one we just wanted to get in your hands as early as possible, because we know that's gonna be a heavy lift. It wasn't heavy just trying to get to this point.
One question I do have.
Yes.
And I appreciate the, the effort that put forth in, both of these. If we do have, legislation that's being passed to set up, a legislative committee, interim committee to study this and make recommendations and all of those sorts of things. Wouldn't it make some sense to see what type of information comes out of that? Not knowing fully what all is, coming out of that, I'm just.
But we could put something like this in place and then tweak it based on, and
True.
if they're going to investigate and do studies, let's be one of the people they're studying. Invite them in and say, hey, these are the things that we're trying. And as Jeff said, be kind of leaders in the area if possible.
I hear you.
Okay, we have proposal number 12. Moving on. The 183-day contract proposal. All salaries on the schedule, we'd like to go from 186 to back to 183. The contract days shall be mandated by Century Code. So here, I'll paraphrase as best I can. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should read it word for word, but so when we went to 186, money was attached to that said, hey, we're gonna go to 186 and we're gonna add those 3 days. Also, we'll be compensated for the 3 days that we work. As we have started looking at state aid and the potentials, the writing's starting to be on the wall as far as what's going to come into us. And we looked at this as a potential raise, if you will. So if we can go from 183 to 186, tack on a little bit extra money, we're essentially working a few more days, also getting paid for that. That's good. If we can go from 186 back to 183 and keep everything the same, that's essentially a raise. Is how we viewed it. Talking with building administrators, other people around the district, there seem to be 3 common days, 2 notably with administration and the and our assembly. The 2 days in January that I have down there, and then the 1 day in April. So that's essentially what we're getting at. Our rationale: 183-day contract proposal seeks to return Williston teachers back to the 183-day contract. During the previous negotiation sessions, teachers agreed to the 186. Which we already just mentioned, but this proposal suggests removing 2 contract days in January and 1 in April, strategically providing educators with additional time during high demand periods of the school year. These days will allow teachers a chance to recharge, focus on professional growth, better balance increasing demands that are placed on them. Restoring the 183-day contract recognizes the importance of maintaining competitive and sustainable working conditions while ensuring that instructional quality remains high. We strongly believe that this adjustment will contribute to teacher effectiveness, morale, and retention, ultimately benefiting both educators and students in the district. This proposal does not make any changes to contact days. So with this proposal, there would be no change essentially to the school calendar. We're looking for those 2 days in January and then the 1 day in April. Could, in theory, maybe save the district even some money if we're not having to pull in and pay PD or custodial staff or different things like that that may require prep during those days.
Have you done any analysis on, the average number of contract days for other contracts?
See some 182s and 185s. It's kind of
182 plus 185 is 300.
the robots are taking it. Cindy, this is what I told you about technology. And this just goes back. Just wanted to be kind of straightforward on this. We'd like to get to 183. That's the number we'd like to get to. These are the 3 days that seem to make the most sense. So
We're removing 3 in-service days essentially.
Yep. Okay, yeah, I think this one right here. We have proposal number 13. I think this is one of those Williston leads the way kind of proposals. There's been a lot of effort into this one. It's called the unused salary redistribution for educators. We just call it the USRE is how we acronymed it. Acronyms seem to be popular, so that's the best we could come up with. At the conclusion of each school year, the district shall calculate the total unused salary funds budgeted for certified teaching positions that remained unfilled during the year. 50% of the total unused amount shall be equitably redistributed to certified teaching staff who were employed full-time under the contract during the school year, in which positions remain unfilled and remain employed within the district at the time of a bonus disbursement, which we're looking at the month of May for a bonus disbursement with that. So the folks that are still with us in May would be eligible for that. The redistribution shall be in the form of a one-time bonus of no less than $300 and not to exceed $3,000 per educator. The total dispersed shall not exceed 50% of the calculated unused funds. The remaining 50+% of that unused budgeted money shall be earmarked for deferred maintenance is what we would like to see that money go towards supporting district-wide infrastructure and facilities. Before determining the final amount of unused salary funds, the district will have to deduct from the budgeted amount the cost incurred for long-term substitutes or daily substitute coverage used to fill those responsibilities of the unfilled positions, and also costs related to extended contracts issued to certified staff who provided additional services to meet the needs associated with unfilled positions. What we're looking at, the district will provide by July 15th, a list of projected certified FTEs for the upcoming school year. Currently, we're at 415 projected for the 25-26 school year. By September 15th, a list of current unfilled certified teaching positions be made available. By May 1st, a report of all the unfilled certified teaching positions for the school year, which will serve as a baseline for calculating the unused salary funds. The one-time USRE stipend shall be included in the May paycheck of the current school year. And then our rationale behind that is the Williston Education Association introduces the USRE proposal to ensure that instructional salary funds remain dedicated to educators and the learning environment. When certified teaching positions remain vacant during a school year, the responsibilities can be disproportionately redistributed to the current staff without commensurate compensation. This increases workloads, diminishes morale, and undermines educator retention. The USRE initiative seeks to equitably redistribute a portion of unused salary funds to current full-time certified educators who absorb additional responsibilities. The remaining will support deferred maintenance projects that enhance school infrastructure and long-term student learning conditions. This proposal offers a fiscally responsible and morale-boosting approach to managing unspent instructional salary dollars. It acknowledges the increased workload educators shoulder due to staffing shortages, while also addressing physical learning environment needs with the deferred maintenance. The USRE aligns with the goals of fair compensation, transparency, and commitment to student and staff success. Hopefully, as we see it, it's no new cost associated with it, since that money is already budgeted for that FTE. Is how we view it.
Are we paying some of those premiums so already for student contact time and in-house substitution for that sort of stuff?
Some, yes.
Okay.
Question on item 1B. We're remain employed with the district at the time of bonus disbursement. So long as they're still actively working in May, they get paid the bonus, even though perhaps they've issued a letter of resignation and are exiting the district at the conclusion of their contract.
If they've carried out their responsibilities for the year, then we believe they should be eligible. What we were trying to do with that is what happened this year. Some of the $3,000 bonus that came out, and we had teachers jump ship and then never got that back. So what we're trying to do is just make sure that they carry out the length of their contract needs, and then they would be eligible for that. So if someone decides that they want to leave in April, they're no longer eligible for that. That's a good question.
What is to prevent then the district from deciding that our FTEs are only those employed by the district? And not project them out and say. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't
So
follow.
if you're saying projected 415 for the 25-26 school year, what if the school district says? We're not gonna project out.
Well, we would assume the fiscal responsibility of the district they would account for all the positions that are needed.
Right, but we have many positions that have been listed for years that have never been filled. Do we roll that and then not have that money available? I'm just asking.
Sure, sure.
When you look at the long-term financial viability of the district, is the goal that we would not roll any dollars over from the way this looks right now, just projectively, you're saying all the dollars have to be spent half on these full-time educators and then half on deferred maintenance. There's no flexibility
Good question.
in those dollars.
And that's why it was important for us to set a min and a max cap at what we did. So for example, if there's 60, that might be an easy number. 60 unfilled positions. I think we're using, I have to remember my honest MA5. So I think 60 unfilled positions at 80,000 a year comes out to 4.8, roughly 5 million. We're not asking for the 2.5 million to come back to us because there's that $3,000 cap. 3,000, I think, cost the district 1.1 this year. So that extra discretionary money there would be used at your discretion is how we perceive it. And what we were hoping for with the deferred maintenance is we recognize that there's a pile of need for deferred maintenance. So we were just hoping that we could help steer some of that maybe into the deferred maintenance, because that's ultimately working conditions too. It's nice to have heat in the building, and it's certainly nice to have AC in the summertime. And those are working conditions, especially for an oversized man as myself. When the heat decides it wants to be on full blast in the summertime, like, we're thankful that we have the dollars to spend with those folks that can come in and fix that. So we were just looking at that budgeted money that's already allocated to FTE, and we were just looking to steer that in those places.
How would you explain this to the taxpayer on the street? That if we're gonna take money that was budgeted, if we could find the teachers, that we already have various enhancements to try and cover when there's additional workload and all that. And then we took that money. I'm just,
And redistributed it.
I'm just trying to picture this from a, consequences of,
Sure. And I think I might be able to help, hopefully I can. We look at it twofold. One, the overall burden that all educators feel with being short-staffed. And two, an opportunity, especially in maybe years where state aid might not be as great, another opportunity to put a few more bucks in teachers' pockets without having to request a pile of new money to do that. Is how I would serve that to them.
Yeah. I understand the overall logic behind that. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of a lot of things to unpack here. And are there any other? I don't think there are any other districts that have something like this, but are there any others that are being rolled out or being proposed this year or anything?
Not that I know of. I know that there have been other districts that have subtle bonuses based off of this number. This is one of those pieces that we feel would be a leading from the front kind of thing that I think could transform how other schools and school districts go about their negotiation. It's a big, bold piece. It's a bold proposal. We feel pretty good about it. And yeah, and I really look forward with that, with seeing what we can flesh out. Good.
Oh,
What are we doing for?
Right on the money. 1 minute over. Yeah.
We're not getting sued, right?
No.
Okay.
I thought we were gonna go till midnight.
Okay. It's a lot to unpack this.
Yeah, it is for both of us.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate the detail with which you put in your proposals, and I really do appreciate, rationale and all of that. It's helpful in understanding, what, one of the kind of unique things about, I've always found from negotiating is you have a pile of proposals come forward, but really trying to suss out what really is the key piece of what is important. So helping out with that, for sure. I appreciate that. I think we're at our time there.
Well, I did fail to mention that this is my fault. Is it okay if we go 3 or 4 minutes past 5? Okay, yeah. I tried to memorize the rules and turns out I don't know any of them. But everyone, okay. And then the last one was salary proposal to come at a later date.
Yeah.
That's okay. So,
Yeah. Well, so what I'm looking at then, we're gonna need some time to digest, likewise the same. So, for our next get together then, we'll have responses and I would hope the same, coming back, I would imagine. If you have any of ours, if you need this in a Word document, if that would be helpful, we'll certainly do that.
and us the same. If you need that in a Word document, we can get that to you.
Yeah.
Soon.
Okay. And
Is that something you guys would like?
I think.
Okay, so then we'll just say, hey, we'll get a Word document for you guys. We'll give you a Word document and.
You wanna clear it through Taylor, everybody sends their stuff to Taylor, if that make it easy for everybody.
Okay, I'll send it to Taylor.
Send it to Taylor and. Send it to Taylor and Taylor will get it to the opposing. side.
Not opposing. Not opposed.
Work, colleagues.
We really are at this together. District, we are the district. So we want to make sure we're doing what's best for the district. That would include teachers too. Excellent. Agree? All right, so we're saying next meeting, we'll have some responses, then we're also gonna make Word documents to Taylor. And then we will also be facilitating the next meeting, right?
You're bringing snacks and food. Right? So,
I took a mean barbecue.
You
As you could tell, I never shied away.
Fair enough. All right. Okay, well,
Formal agenda then for next meeting would be approval of the minutes as the first item and then discussion of proposals is the second.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it. No, we're off to a good start. I appreciate the passion in describing some of these pieces that, you know, all of there was thought put into this without doubt. We appreciate that.
thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Okay.
I know.
Adjourn at 8:05.
Oh, sorry for the regulation.
I don't know.
I gotta show you this.
Yeah.